they're like, okay, so when John Heder gets here, and I'm like, do we not know that it's Heder at this point? Like, I get it when you see it on paper, it can look like Heder, but it's like it's one of those things. I actually hadn't heard Tigon until we were at ThetaCon, and a few people were like, I think it was when we were taking photos in front of the huge inflatable Tigon, where someone was like, "Oh, look at it's a huge Tigon." And I was like,
"Sounds so weird to hear."
Like a T-Rex Tigon? Is it a Tigon?
Like the Tigons are here too?
Yeah.
Poppin's poppin' and locking. Magnum scrutinizing. Poppin' Mags Podcast.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to episode 31 of the Poppin' Mags Podcast. Mags, we are up to 208 days since we were told it'll be a few weeks until we can get our NFTs off of Theta Drop. And guess what? They're still there.
What do you think this is going to end?
Well, at this point, I don't envision it happening this year. I guess we got to hope for a few weeks being less than a year at this point. I'm hoping Q1. But honestly, after Wes's answer at the AMA at ThetaCon, it didn't leave me warm and fuzzy about getting our NFTs off of Theta Drop. So I'm not sure, but we will continue to count.
All right. We're going to keep counting it up.
Might as well. And speaking of counting, I was tempted to start another reverse countdown because I know you left ThetaCon Sunday morning.
We know. I regret it.
So, yes.
Yep. I was not there.
You were not there for the shout out from Andrea, which okay, whatever. But during that same time frame, Jerry, the head of NFTs from Theta Drop, was also on the stage. And there was, I forget what the question was, but he kind of gave us breaking news that there was going to be a new validator, that there was a new validator, but I think he said within a few days we would know. The ink was not yet dry or something like that. But he mentioned that within a few days we would know who it was. And we got to the point where it was a week and a half. And earlier this week, there was an announcement that it was Trusted Media Brands that is the new validator. And they actually were the ones that had the Pet Collective drop as well as Fail Army. So I was all ready to start another reverse countdown, but a couple days ended up being about a week and a half.
How does that sound for your couple? Is that okay?
Well, I think a couple of days being a week and a half would make a few weeks. Let's do some math here. That's like times, call it 10. So, I mean, in this instance, a couple of days being a week and a half was way closer to calendar accuracy than a few weeks is. So Jerry was still off based on a calendar, but not as off as we were told about the NFTs. So it seems like they're getting better. Quite a week of pines this week. I'm not sure if you noticed. Did you notice any large activity?
Did I notice pines?
Any large activity?
Yeah, I saw some activity.
And this one wasn't really led by you this week either, but I think the major move of the week was this massive trade between Catch and Chief. Did you happen to catch that one?
I'm confused with this one, honestly.
So just this it's a T-Fuel hat, Theta Glasses Guardian.
So this used to be my Guardian. I traded to Chief. It used to be Catch's.
Mm-hmm.
But so
did Catch mint that one?
This is a Catch 22. So what happened was Chief owned RoboCop. Then apparently Chief was winding out of Pines during this time. And he made a deal with Catch for it, but Catch needed to sell something. So Catch sold me his Guardian for T-Fuel. And this was back in the day where it was a fastest finger, right? Where you couldn't send offers.
Right.
Tracking.
Right. So
then he got that. And then So eventually, when Chief comes back in, Chief gets Robo from him. Right. Now I have the Guardian. Catch doesn't have any of that, and Chief has Robo. And then with my blockbuster trade with Chief from a few weeks back, feels like a few days. It feels like a few weeks back, if you know what I mean. But I'm
yeah. Actually, it's been only actually a week if we're going like that.
Anyways, what happened was, well, this goes back literally a few weeks though, but
calendar weeks. Yes.
Catch got a custom pine, right?
Do you recall it? Yes, right. I do. Oh yeah.
Then he worked a deal with Chief to get RoboCop to join him.
Right.
And then because I made the deal with Catch and I knew Catch has been on him to get this Guardian back, and lo and behold, he gets the Guardian back. So Catch just wound up with everything.
Well, he gave up a lot, but now do you know, like, is this one that Catch minted originally? I think it was.
I don't know offhand.
So he gave up 6 pines for this Guardian. It was a blue mummy wrap with a hockey stick, an Anon with a machete, an SPS pin and floating T-fuel, color camo face robo gun, an army dude with a shotgun, and a Theta pin with a blue grin.
I wouldn't have done that.
You wouldn't have given up the Guardian for those 6?
No.
Okay. Fair enough.
Would you?
That's a lot of pines. Tough to say. I'm not in that position. I don't have a Guardian, so I wouldn't know. I've never been there.
Okay.
Not sure what it's like to own a Guardian.
It'd be nice for you. But yeah, I think everything's a trick question, and I just keep like not understanding, and that's why we keep detracting like this.
All right, hey, no tricks there. But
okay.
I also saw that there was a beautiful silver skull that got sold this week.
Yes,
I think that was like $2,500 in T-fuel. What a steal! I mean, a ton of T-fuel, but a steal at a US dollar price. And it went to a guy that we met for the first time at ThedaCon, which is cool to see. The guy that owns the Bruce Lee.
Oh wow, that's looks like he's re-engaging, huh?
Nice addition to his stash there for sure. And then I don't know who this is. I'm not sure if this guy was at ThedaCon, but we got a Mudra man on the loose, bro.
Oh my god! Oh, Ralph. There was like 4 of them, right?
He's got 6 Mudras.
But he bought it's crazy.
I mean, so I think that he bought 1 or 2 before there was a picture that was posted by Rare last week, right? With it was like you almost had like a fighting garb on, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And I think this guy Ralph bought 1 or 2 before that picture was posted, and then the picture was posted, and then he just kept on buying. So, yeah, I don't know, man. For 6 Mudras, though. I mean, obviously they're rare, but that's going after it.
Wow.
So good luck to him.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he paid a more comfortable price with them than they've been the floor's been with them.
Yeah, I mean, he raised the floor is up now for sure. Last I saw it was $3,000, and I think he was getting these closer to $2,000. But
right,
pretty good. I mean, pretty good. And then just a little peek behind the curtain. We had quite a busy week this week with Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday interviews, and one of these guys, specifically the guy that we interviewed on Wednesday, came into our show not owning any pines.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just happened to be on Twitter just recently, and now I see a tweet from him, and he's one of the newest, probably the newest pine holder. So welcome to the pine community, Wes Sherwin.
Oh, awesome. Congrats, Wes.
Oh, yeah. And I also happen to notice where that pine came from.
Where? I didn't see a name.
I saw a name. In a nice little 10 T-fuel sale. So that was awful nice of you, Mags. You got any more 10 T-fuel pines for sale?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, T-Fizzle. It's hard to hide behind 100 and some odd Pines over there, and Magnum PI, no less.
No comment.
All right.
Well, we may get some technical help, so that's good.
Hey, whatever. It's all good, man. So welcome, Wes. That's good. That was cool to see. So I don't know if you saw this week. Obviously, back in December, January of last year, we were seeing hacked accounts all the time on Data Drop. It was driving me nuts. Like people just using too common of passwords and getting their accounts ripped off. Well, saw again this week with Salad, SALOD. We all of a sudden he's got a squirt gun pine that just drops like way below floor to 160.
Oh, wow.
Our boy Favor Pine picked him up. Yeah, and then the surefire sign is right away. He turns around and buys something else for like 270 and then drops it to 150 cash. So it was like the old attempt to get T fuel and get it off the site as quick as possible. So you hate seeing it. I mean, guys, we need 2FA on our accounts. You got to be careful out there, and at least it's not happening as much as it was before.
So just let's bring this back in. What's 2FA? Because I'm tracking they're like sponsors on Sesame Street for an episode I saw.
The number of the day along with the letters. 2FA is two-factor authentication. So you get your Google Authenticator or whatever app you got and just link it up so that when you're signing in, you got to use the Authenticator app as well to sign in. That way no one can steal your account.
That sounds.
And I would probably
like a smart move.
Yeah, and also a smart move would be not to use the same password for everything. So change up the passwords, because if you got the same password for Theta Drop as you have for your email, guess what? They figure one out and you're toast. So
yep. Go
in there. I'm sure what it is they go in there, they change the email and account, they change the phone number, and then all of a sudden, you're done. They added to a two-factor authentication, and now your account is their account, and whatever you had in there, you can just consider it gone. It's a shame.
The more you know. Okay.
Yeah. So I actually saw something on Twitter as well this week, and I wanted to question you about this.
You want to question me about it?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
There was an update to Studio 1A I saw.
We're talking about this is actually happening. We're talking about this.
Well, I think it has to be talked about. I'm just wondering where the funding came from for this upgrade.
This upgrade came out of my own pocket. Is where it came from.
So
any more brainbusters or?
So how come you are Studio 1A and I'm 6F? What's up with that?
You got to talk to Bob. I don't know. I'm
not talking to Bob. I'm talking to Mags.
I know, but I don't run the studio scheduling. I don't know what to tell you. But for some reason, I was given 1A, and 1A was in line for some upgrades, and I took them.
Wait,
but
so
6F isn't bad either.
Wait, is Bob the same guy that responded to Wes via DM? Is that the same guy?
I don't know. Maybe.
That guy. Can't trust him.
No.
Cannot trust him at all.
No, but I upgraded. I kind of upgraded a bit, and you chose not to.
Yeah. I gotta figure out some upgrades over here.
And I don't know if you saw this on Twitter. I think you did, because you were the one trying to suss me into a whole freaking.
I'm very disappointed it didn't work.
It did not work. I took the high road on this one, and just let you whine and attract other people to whine with you, because I never stopped you from upgrading your studio, and also too, it was a bit deceiving because you record on your phone when we do these usually, and you had the headphones, these massive headphones. I don't think you're using them.
I am 100%. They're on right now.
Then if it works, then why get rid of it?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But yours was working before too, and you upgraded for some reason.
Was it?
Was it not?
I lost an hour part of an interview with Andrea and you with that microphone.
Okay.
So
here we go.
So is it working?
Okay. If that's, hey, listen, smart move. Studio 1A needs to be pristine. That's for sure.
Yeah.
We need to keep
I don't know
our
what's
talent.
going on with 6F.
6F, man. The standards are low, and that's okay. Oh, man. All right. Well, this week, I think I can speak for both of us when I just say that we are truly humbled by the guests that we were able to have.
Yeah. How the hell did we get guests like this?
Honestly, a real close friend of the podcast certainly helped in a major way. Had to have been. But it was our absolute pleasure to host John Heder and Justin Trevor Winters. And that interview is
coming up next
after these messages.
This week's episode is brought to you by Sizzle Popcorn, the official popcorn of Poppin' Mag's Pinecast. Choose from a variety of delicious flavors, including lightly salted, cheddar, salt and vinegar, Mexican chili, maple syrup, and, yeah, even ketchup. The perfect snack for any occasion. Use promo code POPPINMAGS at checkout for an additional 10% off. That's POP_Mags.
And now for the Tigon Fishing Report. This December, the best days to fish are going to be December 27th and 28th in the evenings.
And that's your weather and Tigon Fishing Report, courtesy of our Storm Tracker 49, using only the livest Doppler. Back to you, Poppin' Mags.
Poppin' Mags, yeah. Poppin' Mags. Poppin' Mags Podcast. Poppin' Mags Podcast.
So what's up, guys?
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. You know, you guys keep it real over there. We're just a couple of cartoon pineapples, so you know our standards are pretty high as well on our end. But yeah, no. So I don't know if you guys are familiar. This is actually the first time we're doing video. Our agent Andrea forced us to step our game up a bit.
I know. I was like talking to her about crashing. And then I was like, we should do like a Russian roulette where we just have random people show up, you know, really mix up the podcast format and just have people crash. And then we have to deal with whatever they bring to the table. But maybe we'll save that for next time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems like a good place to start would be ThedaCon, right? And I heard that there was an unfortunate mishap that occurred at ThedaCon.
Was there?
Which mishap? You know that I almost died, right? Is that what you're talking about?
That would be the mishap.
Wait, what?
John doesn't even know. John,
are you serious?
We're breaking this now.
What?
Breaking news.
What happened?
So, we.
Is this after or before?
This is after. Yeah, I spent 3 days in the ER.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. You
so
gotta tell me that.
This time last week was my first night in the ER. So and we can kind of blame most of it on our yacht and the geocaching.
Okay. Yeah, please explain.
So the origin story. I think, you know, this time of year people are always battling something. I'd had like a sore throat going for like a couple weeks. It wasn't bad. I had no other symptoms. It was just kind of this consistent thing. I figured it was because, you know, we've been doing a lot of like podcasts and panels and stuff. And it's like all day long talking about all these great, you know, exciting things that we're working on. So I was just kind of battling through it. Didn't think too much of it. On Sunday of ThedaCon, we decided, a bunch of us, to go out on a friend's boat. And what better than to, you know, jump off of the highest part of a boat if you're on it. So we're like jumping off and having a great time. And that was out like in the ocean, which is great. And then we were kind of in this area where there's, you know, channels and homes, and it was a little bit more bog-esque. And we're going geocaching. Are you guys familiar with that?
Yeah.
No.
Basically, it's basically like modern day treasure hunting. There's a bunch of like little pieces of treasure hidden all over the world. And if you
want to call it treasure, you know, it's, you know, really just signing a paper log But yes, the finding of it is the treasure.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like people who don't know geocaching, look it up, become a part of it. It's little like pieces of treasure all over the world. And like you can find them. And of course, John and I have kind of geeked out over geocaching for the last decade or so and shared it with a lot of people. And we were doing it all over Fort Lauderdale. And so we're on this, dare I say, yacht or boat. And we're like, hey, there's some in the channel. Like, let's go find them. So the next thing you know, we're like swimming through jungle brush and like climbing up on like towers and climbing under like wharfs and piers and stuff.
Just a quick insert. Normally geocache is land-based. This was the first time ever that we realized we went into this actual lake area that was, it was connected to the channel, so it was still seawater. But I was like, I looked at all these caches on the, on the app when you're looking for them. And I was like, oh, looks like we discovered that there were like 3 or 4 of them in this place that you had to access only by water. You could only access it because otherwise you'd be, stomping on private property or almost getting into, we had a security guy trying to stop us. At one point, we knew where one was. I was pretty sure it was under a dock. And Justin was the brave one who, I didn't even think about it. And he jumped in and went under the dock. And I was like, it should be right under here. So yeah, it was fun. It was fun, but it was water-based. So it was the most, I guess, adventurous that we had, gone to those lengths to find these geocaches. Sorry.
And these were like skill level, difficulty level 4s out of 5s, which are pretty challenging to find. And we found 2 out of the 3. So we felt pretty accomplished. And we signed the log, so we left a little Tigon mark behind. And we got back on the boat and I noticed that my foot was bleeding because I'd cut it on something underneath the dock. And the couple that took us out on their boat, they were like, oh, you got to be really careful. That's probably going to get infected. So they kept hosing it off. And they were like, we want to make sure to give you like some hydrogen peroxide, some polysporin, all of that. And I was like, is it really that bad? And they're like, you have no idea the amount of bacteria that's in this channel. Like you have to be really careful. So I just kind of logged that, but I didn't think too much of it. And
I'm like literally looking at my hands right now because I cut myself the tiniest little nick on my hand in that same area. And I was just like, uh-oh.
Well, plot twist, spoiler alert, I have no foot left. They had to amputate. No, I'm just kidding. But actually it is kind of a plot twist. So I get home and my throat that had hurt for the last couple of weeks was actually hurting like 10 times more. I could hardly swallow. It felt like I was like chewing on shards of glass and swallowing them. And I woke up Tuesday morning to my glands swollen this big. My uvula, which is that little punching bag that hangs out in the back, was completely swelled up. I couldn't talk and I could barely breathe.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, oh, this is not good. So for some reason in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, I can go to urgent care. They're probably going to give me some antibiotics and I'll be fine. So I drove myself to urgent care. I walked in and the doctor like had this shocked look on her face. And she's like, you need to get to the ER now. Like, this is very serious. And I'm like, where's the ER? She's like, well, it's only a few blocks. So I walked to the ER and I couldn't talk. Like I like trying to talk like that. And I got there and immediately they were like, okay. They injected me with steroids, antibiotic, rushed me into the ER, hooked me to an IV. I had like needles in both of my arms. And I still, for some reason, was like, oh, like I'll probably be leaving here at the end of the day. And they were like, no, we need to make sure that you're going to be okay. So yeah, I was in there.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
How did you guys know about this? What did you put this out there, Justin? I didn't even hear about this.
They're investigative journalists. Obviously, they do their research before their guests come on.
Well, we've got a source.
We have a source. I was talking with this unnamed source, and I said,
Andrea.
I can't confirm.
Andrea.
I can't confirm that. Could be. But anyways, I said, so if something I don't know why this came up, but I said, if something happened to Justin Trevor Winters, would it become Berryfied Labs? and she says, "You know what? We had a conversation," and she says,
he just said it. Sorry.
It could be different. It's a very common name.
Yeah.
But anyways, she said that unknown person again said that your team, I don't know if they're ready to take over if you went down.
Well, you know what's so funny is we had like really important calls that week. One of which was with the Sandbox, really solidifying our partnership, how we were going to move forward. This is a team effort. We're all partners here, but I had been kind of taking point on that. And I'm texting the guys and I'm like, I'm in the ER. And the Sandbox is French based. So we had a 6 a.m. call with them on Wednesday morning. And I'm like, I'm told I can't talk for a few days. Like, can you handle it? And it's been really challenging this whole time working with them to get traction, to move forward, to get everything done. And I had 100% confidence in everybody, but I just wasn't going to be able to be a part of it. And of course, like, I'm not there, but I'm getting all of the like Slack messages and texts as they're going through it. And they're like, holy shit, this is amazing. Yes, better than we could imagine. Like all these things. And I'm like, see, you guys never needed me to begin with. Like you go like now I feel like I'm just going to delegate and be like, I'm going to retire. I'm done. Like they got everything on their own. Like they figured it out. It was the best it could have been. That kind of happened progressively through the week as I realized more and more I wasn't a part of things. It's kind of like when you have like you have the avid sports fan that like leaves the room and all of a sudden their favorite team scores a touchdown and then they kick them out and they're like, you can't watch the game anymore. I felt like I was that guy where I was like, I guess I'll just have to stay in the ER for a few more days as you guys like close deals and, make this verified labs even better than it is. So they were fully functional without me. So maybe that means I can just retire here if I need to.
Jeez.
So I'm assuming that was Brian and Matt that were leading the charge there.
It was, and Billy as well. They were all on the call. Billy's actually been kind of the point person with the Sandbox. Billy's really solidified the relationships and friendships. Billy's superpower is everyone loves him. He's like the nicest human being. He's very genuine. He's the one that like can strike up a conversation with anyone, anywhere, at any time. I know that's not my strength. So, but it's great. Like he's already played golf, with like the guys at the Sandbox. He's like talking about, oh, when are we going to get drinks? Let's grab coffee. Like, let's do all these fun things. So he was a big part of that. And obviously because we were talking about Tigons, and a bit about Dog and a bit about Tupac, Matt was taking a lot of those questions and answering them. And so again, like a team effort, which was great. Yeah.
It sounds a bit like Magnum, everywhere he goes, he's just making friends with everybody and, no one ever, has a bad thing to say about him. It's wild.
I haven't had a lawsuit in a while.
It must be nice.
Now, I'm sorry, I'm still kind of new to this party. So I see it on the little window. It says Magnum, Popper, and Popper.
Yeah, so I'm Sheriff Popper, and he just tries to like.
No,
he's Magnum PI.
Napple.
PI Napple, yeah.
But really, the thing
no
is,
questions were answered. But
no, this is important.
So you go by Mags because it's called the Mags and Pop, right? Podcast.
Pop and Mags.
Pop and Mags. Pop.
Let me apologize for John. I am one of your 10s and 10s listeners.
Shit.
Oh wow.
So I'm very aware of the title of the podcast. I'm very aware of your dynamic. I know a lot about you guys. I'm a fan. So at least one of us here, John is going to be introduced to the fandom and be a part of it too. But there's a little process of getting there.
You think John's ready for the 10s and 10s of listeners we have?
I think he's pushing us maybe over into maybe he's the 100th listener, which could be
wow.
incredible.
Wow. I was talking with Matt and Matt. I don't know if it was Matt or Brian, but they're very interested to compare ratings on this episode versus their episode.
Okay, so I did.
What episode of whose episode? Brian
and Matt's, yeah.
I
will say, and that's Brian's superpower is like he's the one-liner, like he's like the comic relief of when you want it or don't want it. We both grew up in Northern California. as you guys know, this is a family affair. I mean, Matt's I call him a good kid. He's older than me, but and like, you know, they had a hot tub. I know you had some epic late night hot tub parties there. Might have run from the 5-0 on a few occasions, hid in the bushes. Family covered for him. Like he's. You should ask him about it over cocktails sometime. He'll tell you some good stories.
Would have loved to do that at ThetaCon. It just got pulled in a million directions.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we'll say, you know, there's plenty more podcasts to have.
So there's a question that the 10s and 10s are looking to have answered here. You know, normally when people use all three of their names, you know, I only know like really like famous assassins that are doing that. So we got Justin Trevor Winters with us. Is there a reason that the Trevor is front and center?
It's so funny. I used to tell this story quite often when I would introduce myself in different capacities, whether it was like on a podcast or a panel. And finally, someone came to me and they're like, "You've overplayed that joke and that story. You can't tell it anymore." So I was like, but I loved it. No, it's funny because, you know, I come from traditionally the entertainment industry as a screenwriter. And a lot of times when you have a writer, they go by all three names and it feels like this pretentious thing. And so I always had to preface, like, it's not a pretentious thing. The reason why I go by my full name is when I got into the entertainment industry, there were several Justin Winters that were already in the industry, one of whom was in adult entertainment. So in order to distinguish myself, I was like, I can't be that Justin Winters. I have to, like, you know, use my middle name. So that's why I went by Justin Trevor Winters. Which my mom was actually really excited about. She's like, "I gave you that middle name. You should use it." So yeah, it was just so that people didn't confuse me with the porn actor. I think he was more like softcore, like Skinamax or like Red Shoe Diary. I think there was like some Playboy credits.
But then it gave him like the feeling of like, hey, there's a career beyond this. I can work my way up from acting to writing. And you could have you helped him maybe feel that a little bit.
Well, and it was always a fallback for me too. I was like, if I don't accomplish all the things that I need to accomplish, then I will become that Justin Winters, you know, and maybe be really happy. But yeah, that's the reason why I go by my full name.
Gotcha. So Andrea, after Magnum left, he had to leave Sunday morning from ThetaCon. Andrea pulled me over into must have been like right before you started getting sick, Sunday night, when after you guys got back from your boat cruise, and I got pulled over there. And I don't know if it was one of you guys that told me, but there was some controversy about some $50 shots that I was told a bunch of pineapples were doing shots and threw them on the Tigons bill. So, you know, we are a detective agency, you know, Mag and Pops. So we looked into it and, you know, we interviewed people and we went to the tape and we figured out after a long search that we know who the culprit was. And It wasn't a pineapple. It was Slick.
Yeah.
He was the guy.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was talking to General Dole, who happens to be, so all of these, so just for John's sake, like all of these names are like names of pineapples from the Secret Pineapple Society that we own. So I own Sheriff Popper, who's a play on Sheriff Hopper from Stranger Things. And we got Magnum, Pineapple. And
now, are you naming them yourself, or do these when you buy it, does it come with the name?
Well, the custom ones come with a name. So my guy came with a name. Yeah. And he was designed.
Oh, you have a one of one or a custom one?
Yeah. Yep. And
custom, like you were able to create it, or was it like a one of one?
A one of one. Yeah. I didn't create it. I opened it up and there he was. So yeah, he was.
Wait, what are the chances of that? And you're running a podcast, or did that give you the clout and the ability to then start a podcast? I mean, I'm trying to understand this. That seems like Magnum, do you have one as well? A one of one that was also named?
Yes, he does.
Well, yes, but so Popper over there, he opened he minted, I don't know, 25, 28 cans on the opening day. and I got like one, and I waited a couple months because I didn't get anything good, and then I saw Magnum on the boards for a cheap price for a custom at the time. Not now.
Okay, I see.
And so I grabbed him. It was between him and the Luke Skywalker one, and I chose the good smile and mustache. Clearly, and the rest is history.
Yeah,
I love both of those pineapples. The Hopper one, my buddy who I grew up with, who actually was a big inspiration for me getting into entertainment to begin with. He was like obsessed with movies. So whenever I go to his house, we'd geek out and watch every movie that was out there. But he does all the post-production sound work for Stranger Things. He's actually won a couple Emmys for it, which is pretty incredible. But so he's constantly getting content and footage before the seasons come out. So obviously, I don't want him to end up in prison, but I get to see a lot of really exciting.
Or fired.
Or fired. He'll remain nameless. But I was really excited about the last season coming out, having seen some of this stuff, and I love that show. So that's a cool pineapple to have.
Yeah. So we kind of we both ended up with these two pineapples that kind of work together like that. And I've known Magnum for going on 20 years now. So we go back, and it just so happened that we kind of threw the idea back and forth a bit. We had the perfect pineapples to do it. And I don't know if you guys are aware of some of the stuff that went on with Data Drop when they didn't renew their domain name. Did you guys catch that?
Tell John.
So that's a good one. I'm going to use that sometime. So basically there was this Friday, I forget when it was, maybe back in like February, April-ish. And literally the domain name for thetadrop.com expired, and it was not renewed in time. So the site went down. And then there's a scramble in the background for hours to get the site back up. So there was other little things that led up to it. But then as soon as that happened, we talked amongst ourselves and we're just like, all right, we're going to start this Pinecast, and we're just going to, kind of be like a parody on the news and just, hold people accountable. Basically, the idea was to hold Data Drop accountable, and then just, it turned into that, along with just kind of reporting like the different activities on Twitter, like getting to know some of the different projects and stuff. So it's been pretty fun.
Wait, you're holding Theta accountable. Isn't Theta kind of like your boss in some ways? Like, or
they don't pay me.
Yeah.
We're losing money doing this.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a podcast, of course. Okay, go ahead.
Just going to say, to his point, though, after our first groundbreaking episode, they had an AMA afterwards, and Mitch apologized for the domain debacle. So one episode in, we got a big apology for the community, not me, for that. Because, in spoiler 2, there's usually an auto renew feature when you set up websites. I don't know if you heard about this.
Yeah.
All over the news.
Breaking news.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I learned this when I made a website, because I don't know what the hell I'm doing either. And it's all set up to get renewed when the time comes. But
and you're saying someone at Theta forgot to click that, button?
Yeah, I think the joke was they had like a raging hot tub party over there and just kind of forgot about it. That was
so they have it now. But what was the debacle? Did someone else buy it, or they just
they fixed it. They had 1.5 tweets saying, "Hey, we're looking into this," and then, "Hey, we fixed it," but not like, "Hey guys, this is what happened. We're sorry about it. It's not going to happen again." I got all these, pineapples on there. They're worth something to somebody, and I can't access them. What is that? That's not making me feel good.
Well, when they had their raging hot tub party, it's too bad it wasn't a hot tub time machine, because then they could have gone back in time and made sure to renew, so that wouldn't have ever happened. So maybe, someday we can create that.
So speaking of time machines, I just watched Napoleon Dynamite last night, and the part with the time machine had me rolling. Like, I just couldn't stop laughing. It was so, to me, that was the best part of the movie. I
Was that your
couldn't
first
stop.
time watching it?
It was my
It
first
was
time
his-
watching it, and
Sad.
I had to make sure that I got it in. Honestly, like the little bit of interaction that I had with you at ThetaCon, it helped me so much with that because I feel like, I don't know. Were you acting like a lot when you were playing that part? Because I feel like some of you is kind of that character, like with the guy that I met at ThetaCon.
Well, it was, it was acting for sure. But, we all exaggerate, acting is just pulling from what, there's a part of you deep down there somewhere. Mine wasn't super deep. That was like more surface level.
Well, it was a fun movie to watch for sure. But
Cool.
that time machine part, man, I couldn't stop laughing. And then I'm literally putting my son to bed tonight and I'm laughing about it because turn it off, the thing doesn't work. And then Uncle Rico comes out. He's like, yeah, I could have told you that, And then the next part in the market or whatever, and he's still like walking.
Yeah.
But the one thing I noticed in there was there was some crystals that were put into the time machine.
Uh-huh.
And there's something going on with crystals with Tigons too. Or is that just random, or is that related in some way?
No, that's random.
Okay.
We're trying to keep the ties between Napoleon and Tigons extremely loose. It's easy, you could say, in the conceit of the Tigons when we came up with them. Sure. For sure, there was like, all right, it's kind of a weird birth because we were like, well, we could do something. I wanted to do some art, and I've never put my art out there for sale. I mean, I've always been into art. I've always done it. I did all the drawings for the movie because Jared knew I liked to draw. Jared Hess, who wrote and directed the movie. But again, it was almost, having talked for so many years about this movie and explained to people like how it was so perfect of a pairing for Jared and I, because when I read it, I was like, yeah, there's so much of this, like you said, is actually me. Like I draw a lot myself and I do these kind of things. I hybridize animals or creatures, and I do weird, hybrids of, whether it's a humanized version of some frog or it's something. That's the kind of artwork I did, except I was much better than Napoleon was, I thought. So when it came time to, when we thought about doing this NFT project, we were like, well, I've never put my artwork out there. The only artwork that people know of mine really is the Ligers and that kind of vibe. So we thought, we could stay a little bit in that world. Let's do another hybridized animal. I was always obsessed with like cats. I mean, the fact that he had me draw a liger was like, well, this is bizarre, because I don't even think he just said do a lion and tiger bred for his skills of magic. And when I drew it, I was like, well, I'm going to add this spiked tail. And I'm going to add this things where it's kind of like an animal, even though ligers, he came up with the idea for ligers because they're real. And there really was a liger ranch that was nearby, like in a neighboring county where he grew up. And they got free. A bunch of them got free. And so it was a big news thing in that area, in like southern Idaho, northern Utah kind of area. And he just remembers that as a kid, reading this newspaper, heading of ligers are loose. And he was like, nobody knew what ligers were. And that's kind of how they were used for the film. But, obviously ligers don't have magical properties or spiked tails. But that's when, Jared came to me just like, let's just throw this in there kind of as a little bit of a nod. And I was so used to doing the kind of weird, again, I drew a picture. I really should share it. Maybe I'll talk to Justin about making that a one of one. But I literally have this picture from like junior year called the Lion Beast. And it's this lion creature with wings and basically a spiked tail. I mean, it's almost identical. And Jared had no idea I did this. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is so my world. And so when it came to doing the Tigons, we're like, I told Justin, he'll tell you. I was like, well, Yeah, I get it. It's kind of a reversal of the Liger, but that's it. Like, I don't want to do anything else that's like Napoleon related. You know, we don't have our Tigons wearing moon boots or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, that was kind of where that's the connection I wanted people to kind of see. Plus, I love doing those kind of drawings where ones that are supposed to, you know, it's not my exact. I have lots of different styles. But the Tigon style is kind of like the Liger style, where it looks kind of cool, but it kind of looks kind of, you know, butt-headedy, you know, like looks a little crusty and something drawn by like a, you know, 7th grader.
That's funny that you mentioned the moon boots, because my buddy had those same exact moon boots, and it was, and I didn't realize that they were he called them moon boots. I had never seen them before, but then I noticed that the Napoleon was wearing them. It's from the same time frame.
I mean, I only wore them out in the snow, which is what they're kind of made for. But I love that you wore them all year. Yeah,
cool. So
the shoes makes a man. I didn't realize how much, like, you make a character, you like whatever you do on the feet or some kind of physical trait that's just so iconic and different and unique, you know.
I was just going to say, going back to kind of the origin story of the Tigons, you know, I knew John as an artist, and as he mentioned before, you know, I was very aware that he did the artwork for Napoleon Dynamite. So when we were kind of looking at who we wanted to work with and collaborate with, he was a natural fit. And like, John and I have known each other for over a decade now, and we're always looking for different ways to work together creatively. So we've kind of started and stopped a bunch of different projects, and this one just felt really right for us. And so, yeah, I called him and asked him, you know, what he knew about this space of creating digital art. And he said to me, you know, it's really funny that you mentioned this, because I was just on set and someone was telling me about these NFTs and creating artwork, and it sounded really interesting. So this might just be serendipitous. And so we kind of just went from there. And I think what's really exciting too, when you talk about kind of this not being some sort of short-term play, but more of, you know, a full roadmap and a long-term play, is to what John was saying before. John has a twin brother, Dan, and the two of them have had versions of Tigons in their head and the story since they were kids. You know, they've been creating the artwork, they've created the stories and the comics and all of that. So now the beauty is we get to go back to a lot of that, reimagine it, bring it to life now in a lot of different capacities. So the initial drop was great. You know, John created over 100 and something assets for these Tigons.
It was 200.
It was 200. Yeah.
200. It was like around 200. I think it was just over 200. It was crazy.
So I remember going to John in the beginning, and I was like, oh, don't worry about it. You just need a master of the Tigon, and then probably like 20 or 30, you know, different accessories and wearables. He's like, okay. And then I'd call him back and be like, oh, just maybe about 10 or 20 more. Okay, just about maybe 30 more. What about this one? It was just like over the months, I was like, oh gosh, do I have to tell him again that we need more stuff? But he was, you know, such a good sport, and every time turned around and created something else that was so brilliant and original and fun. And for us, it was like, there was a bit of a traditional NFT that was being created at the time. So we felt like this was something that was unique and different, that we could kind of make as our own and really build a community around it, and hopefully get to a place where it almost, you know, became kind of like this cult following. But I think what's really great about it is, you know, so we create the 2D generative for Theta, but then it's like, okay, now what do we do with this to continue to bring it to life? And that was, okay, well, there's this whole new thing called Web3 and these, you know, these platforms that are a part of the metaverse, and how do we bring them to life in avatar form? You know, can we create almost like a video game? Can we create an immersive experience where people can take the Tigons that they have and have them in a new space? And so that's when we really started exploring the Sandbox amongst others. And John got to work on that. What does the landscape look like? What does the world look like? What do the characters look like? What's the gamification? And really started building that out, which we've been working on for several months. And again, the natural progression out of that is, okay, so we actually, and I don't think, John, you even know this, but we have confirmation that the Tigons will be coming out in season 4, alpha season 4 for the Sandbox. That won't be Q3 or 4 of next year. So we are looking at collaborations where we can come out earlier and do some fun stuff. But we're like, okay, what else do we do for the community? And what's the natural progression for this world of Tigonia forever for infinity? And it's like, what about the animated series? And John obviously connected with Rob Feldman and Psycho KO, and we kind of saw the way that was getting put together. And we're like, okay, how do we do the same thing for Tigons? I've had a few meetings actually this week because I can talk again, which has been great. And we're already getting courted by financiers and also animation artists and animation studios that are wanting to help facilitate that. So it's like now this idea that kind of just happened from us having conversation, naturally coming to the conclusion that, oh, Tigons would be really fun. They'd be great. It's a part of John, who he is as a creator, his art form, his childhood. And now to see it grow into all of these bigger things, I think is really fun for us. And I think the sky's kind of the limit for that. And the last thing I'll say on it, which I always love, because John called the artwork crusty. And I always love when he uses that term, which is fun, but also, not to speak for John, but he always says, what would Sherman do? And Sherman is the kid in the back of the class in like 4th grade that's completely zoned out, not paying attention, but focused in on his artwork, the world that he's creating, the galactic cosmic battles that are going on, the different creatures that he's created. And that's kind of, a big part of the inspiration, which I think is going to continue to be really fun for us. Because I actually talked to an animation studio yesterday, and they were like, well, what's the visual that you're looking for? And I'm like, well, you need to sit down with John. We need to make sure that we bring that to life. But some of the inspiration is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Thundercats and He-Man and all that. But I'm like, but it's crusty, right? So like there can be an element of like, it's still Sherman in the back of the classroom, like scribbling this shit together. So if like a couple cells fall apart or like a face rearranged, like all those things I think can be fun for the overall aesthetic and storytelling. So it's been a cool adventure, like seeing all of this world and these characters come to life, having started with just the 2D drop on Theta and bringing the community and everyone with us.
Is Verified Labs involved with the Psycho show?
Yeah. So basically, the short answer is yes. We're a little bit more on the periphery. I think people have been asking, like, what exactly is Verified Labs? And the easiest way to sum it up is we're an agency and a studio. We're an agency in the sense that we have access to a lot of talent, from actors and actresses to musicians and athletes and influencers and all of that, and brands. And what's happening now, even though we're in a bear market and, with the FTX thing and the lawsuits going on, like Giselle and Tom Brady and Steph Curry and
Magnum,
Larry David all getting sued, a lot of talent is scared to get in the space because they're like, oh, crypto is the same as blockchain, is the same as Web3 and metaverse and NFT. They don't know the difference. So it has been a little bit more of an uphill battle with that. But we have access to a lot of talent that wants to be able to have opportunities in this space. And so that's what we're doing, right? Like, John's a friend. It was a natural fit. I love working with him. It made sense. But we're also, we've talked, like you guys have heard, we're throwing a Tupac concert. We're working with Dog the Bounty Hunter. We've talked to Jay Balvin about an experience, like all these different people. So we're an agency at the core where we're creating content for the artists that want to create it. But we're also a studio in the sense that we can outsource to find the resources to do the creation. Like, we're working with a team that's bringing everything in the Sandbox to life because they know how to work with voxels, right? We'll be working with an animation studio to bring John's vision of Tigonia forever and for infinity to life in animation form. So for Psycho KO, we're just a big fan of Rob and the art and everything. And so he came to us, specifically my cousin Matt, and was like, hey, we're a fan of the Tigons. We're a fan of what you're doing. would John be interested in potentially looking at Psycho-KO, maybe even voicing a character? And we were like, yeah, of course, like we'll talk to him about it. We'll show it to him and you guys can connect and see if there's some synergy there. So that all happened. And not to speak for John, but he obviously responded positively to the artwork, to Rob, to what they were trying to do, and felt comfortable enough to be like, hey, I want to invite my friends along, from Napoleon Dynamite. And so with that kind of introduction and John being a partner with Verified Labs, we were like, well, we'd love to be a part of this as a producing partner, having brought in some of the talent. Let us know how else we can help with the process. So if that's bringing more talent, if that's bringing additional financing, if that's looking for blockchain, obviously we're working with Replay TV, but like, what are the other resources we can have? Our connections run pretty deep where it's like, if the end goal is to go on an actual streamer, a major streamer for distribution, it's like my friend just is running, adult animation comedy for Netflix. So it's like, if that's the end goal, cool, we can help facilitate that. So we're really here to help just in any way, shape, and form that we can with that project, because we all love it and believe in it also. And we're all about working with people that we like, that are fun to work with, that don't take themselves too seriously, that jump off of yachts and bogs and end up in bars. We actually, and there's I don't know if John knows this. There's a great clip of John getting hosed off, a self-imposed hosing on the boat that has made its way online. That we just released a video on Instagram and Twitter of our experience at ThedaCon, which is worth watching. So if you want to know our vibe and how seriously we take ourselves, that's kind of it. We're here to have fun, make art, hopefully make a little bit of money along the way and get people excited about the different projects.
Sounds kind of like us. Minus
Exactly
the art.
Like
Minus the art. I'm no artist. So I know you guys are, building the metaverse. Is the entire metaverse, everything you're doing, is that all on the Sandbox?
A lot of what we're doing is on the Sandbox. It was kind of this thing where we worked with a company, generative-nfts.io, to create the generative for the Tigons, for Theta. And Jim and Wendy over there said, hey, you should meet our friends at Voxel Ocean that are doing a lot of interesting things in the Sandbox. And so we didn't really know a lot about the Sandbox outside of Matt had bought some land and invested in it and had been tracking it and seeing big brands and big names getting involved, from Snoop Dogg to, Care Bears and Atari. And it looked like a smart investment as we're building out these different platforms in the space. And so we started doing our research, and we found out kind of what they were doing, primarily the fact that they were going to be mobile, which means they would reach, 2.5 billion gamers. We were like, oh, this is a good platform to get content out there. When I think anyone first hears metaverse, they immediately go like Ready Player One. So when I was first introduced to the Sandbox, I was like, what is this Atari like original
It
Sega
looks like Minecraft. That's what I kept saying. It just looks like Minecraft.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is not what I was envisioning. But then I started to understand what they were trying to accomplish. And the fact that like the amount of battery life and, I'm going to say quantum mechanics and all of the things that go into creating the metaverse, like their approach is actually a smart one. Whether your team Sandbox, Decentraland, Horizons, like everyone has an argument of why they're going to be great and why they're not going to be great, but it just made sense for us. And I kind of, there was a weird nostalgic thing where I was like, this looks like I had an Atari. I had the original Sega Master System. I was a Sega over Nintendo because we had to be the different kids on the block.
You mean the lame kids on the block?
I mean, we had a turbo. Matt Winters got a TurboGrafx 16.
We had one too. We took it over Super Nintendo because it looked awesome.
It looked
but
and just real quick, the reason why we wanted it was because we wanted to get Bonk's Adventure. We never freaking owned it.
Yeah. No, trust me. I think we were always pushing back on the Nintendos of the world, which was, I still like, Contra, and some of those are my favorites. But there was a weird nostalgia to it where I was like, this weirdly works for Tigons, and we were like, what else can we do in the space? So we created a Verified Labs hub where it's like basically Miami Vice from the 80s. Like we have palm tree lined streets, a yacht, beaches, bikinis, like overwater bungalow office spaces. It's like Studio 54 at night, and then just straight sweaty Miami Beach during the day. And so we kind of looked at it as, how do we create like a universal studio? So you have the hub where you can get work done, take meetings, do development, also be entertained. There's some retail. But then you go in any direction. In one direction, you go to Tigonia. One direction, you go on bounty hunts with Dog the Bounty Hunter. Another, you go and watch a Tupac concert. Another, we built a historic theater where we're going to have movie premieres and work with film festivals to go see it. So that was kind of the first destination in the Sandbox, but we're working on a deal now. It's not finished, but we're not really like under NDA on it. And I feel pretty confident we're going to be able to do something. But TJ Miller is really interested in getting into the Web3 space, and he wants to be one of the biggest comedians in the space. He's very knowledgeable about it. Obviously, people know him from Silicon Valley and Ready Player One, and so he gets it, and he's just looking for the right opportunity. And so we were like, how do we stand-up comedy, and a comedy special is difficult to achieve in the metaverse, because it's like, are you going to have a live audience? That's a complication. Are you not? Are there facial expressions? Are there laugh tracks? Like all these different things. We've had pushback from Sandbox, Roblox. Horizons tried to do it with their comedy club. It's been really challenging. So we're like, how do we reinvent stand-up comedy so that it makes sense and it works in this space of Web3 that's immersive, but not the traditional, I'm sitting in a nightclub listening to stand-up or watching it on Netflix. And so the idea for TJ right now is we've created an avatar. We're creating avatars for him for every single platform, from Fortnite to Minecraft to Roblox to Decentraland to Sandbox. And he's going to start the show kind of like the old Seinfeld episodes. Seinfeld would open up with stand-up and kind of present what the episode was going to be about, the major themes, poke fun at people. So the intro to the show is going to be him talking about whatever is the current event, making fun of it. If it's the FTX debacle, skewering that, which he's really good at, roasting it. And then after a few minutes, we're going to set him loose in a different experience. And in that experience, he's going to run around roasting the experience and the people involved. So you can imagine, like, Playboy is about to have their 69th anniversary party in the Sandbox. If you let him alone in there for 10 minutes running around, or like Paris Hilton's birthday that's coming up, right? Or like, the Smurfs, like we were joking around, we're like, he could dress up as like hobo Papa Smurf, looking for magic mushrooms, and like just what he does in his wheelhouse and has fun with it. So it's like, yes, some of that is in the Sandbox, but it's like, what is the biggest experience in Fortnite that he can go crash and have fun with as his own avatar, to just have fun and do comedy in the space? What is that in Roblox? What is that in Horizon when they open back up? So that's, I think, going to be kind of the gateway to allow us to do some of these other things, where it's like, yes, we have Tupac that's going to be performing in Sandbox, but why can't we replicate that in Decentraland? Why can't we ultimately replicate that in Roblox? It's just a matter of, how do we make the strategic relationships and partnerships so that they know we have access to all of this talent, and how do we facilitate that? And I think there's probably, for us, even with Tigons, like an opportunity to diversify over platforms. One day everyone wants to be able to have these different platforms work together, or, your Tigon takes a portal from the Sandbox into Decentraland and it turns into the Decentraland version of that Tigon. So, we would love to be able to accomplish that. It's just a matter of technology, resources, timeline. And, for us, it'd be great to, we're working on you guys have maybe heard a little rumblings behind the scenes, and this is more Matt Winters in charge of this, but, we're looking at a token and K-Fuel, and how we can potentially generate some revenue, how we can do a small raise. So a lot of the things that we're talking about, we can scale, have the money in our bank account to really do it. Because right now it's like, where's the money coming from? How do you have the money to be able to invest in all of this, knowing that for the long term, it is an investment and there's going to be an ROI on it. So I want to be able to be everywhere. That's the goal, but that's going to take time and resources.
Well, it certainly sounds like you are heading in that direction full speed. And yeah, K-Fuel, it's pretty cool. You guys are basically already set up completely for staking. We're just waiting on those few weeks from Theta drop to finish up. The few weeks that date back, 202
days right now.
202 days as of today.
I remember Matt and Brian when they were on here, you guys counting the days, and that was probably at least 30 to 60 days ago, right? So,
we've been counting for a while.
You guys need like a something in the background that just has the number,
We added a reverse countdown on the website, popandmags.com. the number 2 place to go for Pop and Mags content. So check it out. You got time.
Perfect. Did you guys get Pop and Mags tattoos yet?
Yeah, have not.
Has anyone gotten a Secret Pineapple Society tattoo yet?
I was told there was a couple of them. There's like 2.
Oh, really?
I
did not know about that.
General Dole, friend of the Pinecast, he mentioned that at ThetaCon, that there was like 2 of them right now that he knows of.
So that's a goal. So I teach screenwriting as well. I have for quite a while, and I talk to my students and writers that I work with. One of the biggest compliments you can get is to have someone dress up as a character that you've created. They dress up for them as Halloween. You're talking about Napoleon Dynamite before. You still see kids of all ages dressing up as those characters for Halloween almost 20 years later, which is a testament to the strength of that film and of that comedy and how much it's impacted the world. And so, yeah, our goal with Tigons is I want to be able to go out on Halloween sometime and see people dressed up in Tigon outfits, of all ages. I think the tattoo would be hilarious, amazing, fans in our support network and in our community. I'm kind of surprised that there hasn't been one yet. But that would be hilarious.
Well, some of them may try to get Tigon tattoos because they keep saying that. Some of them.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of your big supporters got on the show and they're calling them Tigons. I'm like, what's a Tigon? I thought it was a Tigon.
I mean, did we ever not say it out loud? Like, it's all so much of his text space, whether it's on Twitter or on Discord or anything like that. So I don't know. Yeah, do we have to write Tigon with the little pronunciation,
like Justin does in his email?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because people still call me Jason all the time. There was an article that just got released and it was Justin T. Winter. It's like I still, most of the time when I'm talking with people, especially if John and I are going to do like a podcast or a panel or something, they're like, okay, so when John Heder gets here, and I'm like, do we not know that it's Heder at this point? Like, I get it. When you see it on paper, it can look like Heder.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's one of those things. I actually hadn't heard Tigon until we were at ThetaCon, and a few people were like, I think it was when we were taking photos in front of the huge inflatable Tigon, where someone was like, "Oh, look at it's a huge Tigon." I was like, "Do we
sounds so weird to hear."
A T-Rex Tigon? Is it a Tigon?
Like the Tigons are here too?
Yeah.
Cousins.
Well, I will say at first when you said Tigon, I was thinking you were talking about Tugon, as in the Tupac, which was almost Tupon. What wasn't it? What were you going to get?
It was almost Tupon. Tupon.
Which I love. Which we probably should have gone with.
No, right? Tupon?
Tupon. Yeah, because everyone's like, "Oh, that's feminine hygiene. We can't do that."
Tupon.
But I think that's what's so great is that's like the crusty. It's like you take Tupac, who's great, but then you call it Tupon, and you're like, "Oh."
Tupon.
So if I remember our conversation with your cousins correctly, basically you guys are going to be dropping a Sandbox avatar for every Tigon that people own, right? But it's
You're not helping Pops.
Sorry, you guys are going to be dropping Sandbox avatars for Tigon holders, but the avatars are not necessarily going to match what the Tigon owners hold, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Let me say this, like, Matt Winters is amazing, and has really been the one involved in supporting the community, helping run the Discord, doing tons of different raffles and challenges, and engaging the community with different one-of-ones that John's created and all these different things. So he's really at the forefront of that. And he came to me and he was like, yeah, let's make sure that we're taking care of the community, and let's make sure that we airdrop and give them all avatars. And I was like, I agree with you, but this, at the end of the day, we need to figure out where to get some more money then, because we need to be able to afford to do all this stuff. But I get it. I do want to reward them. So I just let him make those decisions, which we let him make those decisions, which he does. And I think they're the right ones. And yeah, I think what it's going to be is and John, you can speak to this too, because ultimately you're creating this avatar, but it'll be an avatar that will be dropped to any NFT owner, and then they will be able to accessorize, with wearables and skins as they see fit, which will create, so anywhere from the jetpacks, to the fanny packs and all of those, spike ball tails, nunchucks, all of that will be available. So it's, if you want the eye patch and different things that your Tigon or Tigons like yours have, you can create it, or at least close to a version of it.
Yeah. Because I think it would be, unless there's a way to I don't know, that'd be a computing feat to figure out what matches what everybody has. I guess, I don't know. Anyway, I don't know enough about that.
I mean, we're capable of doing a avatar generative. It would take a good amount of money, time, and resources, but it can be done. But I think probably for the initial phase, it's at least getting people the avatar that are in the community so that they can go enjoy themselves when the experience is available in the Sandbox. And then the Sandbox also has a way that they run things. So there's only going to be a certain amount of accessories and wearables and skins that are available. And with time, I think, as you show success and their sales and people are excited, and then you can kind of grow. But it's like they're limiting people from being like, oh, I'm going to drop 1,000 things and no one's going to buy anything, right? So how do we do a limited amount where maybe they have kind of this, I don't know how much you guys know about the Sandbox, but it's like, if you drop a legendary NFT or accessory, that means there's very few. Maybe there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's like, if you don't get the jetpack and you really want it, you're going to have to buy it from someone, right? So there's additional action on the secondary market. And they kind of have this scale of okay, you can release 5 of this one, 50 of this one, and 100 plus of this one. So that'll kind of, we'll play by their rules in delivering that. But yeah, I think it'll be a fun thing for the community to have those avatars, and I'm excited for them to use their creativity to build the one that they want to their specific, desires.
Yeah, that sounds cool. John, are you actually the one doing the artwork for the attributes on the avatars as well?
Well, not building the 3D versions of them in the Sandbox, but I've always worked very closely with our engineer who kind of designs a lot of that stuff. I always do, everything starts out 2D, and everything up until then, we don't have a lot of new stuff, but up until then, it's all been 2D for me. And then I work with our guys and they 3Dify it.
So are you working more along the lines of the animation right now?
Yeah. It's kind of it's still world building, doing all the backstory, and then we're going to be, and then I'll be designing some characters Just that's what I'm working on now, is designing the characters story wise and also visually, what these main characters look like, which is all in turn, helping to flesh out the world of the Tigons even more. Because, that's the hope we had from the beginning is, I saw this opportunity to bring Tigons to life, and then talking to Justin, really like a lot of these ideas we talked about, properties that I had created when I was in high school, and how I can really combine and bring a lot of that stuff existing in the same universe in terms of story. So you'll have Tigons, but then we have a bunch of ideas for spin-off characters and other things, but they can all be tied back kind of to the same universe. And so the more we do with like the cartoon, will certainly open that up. But everything moving forward is like, how does this, connect to the universe, and how directly does it connect to the Tigon homeworld and what they're about, and also how can that work in the sandbox, in the metaverse, because a lot of this stuff was created due to, because I created, just a little input is when I originally created the Tigons, I made them with big heads, but it wasn't really a big head. It was just more like a perspective. It's like you're focusing on the head with this little body, because I wanted to pop as visually like you see the head. But then it kind of turned into this thing when they originally designed the 3D version of them for the sandbox. They took it directly from my drawings, and so we had these Tigons running around with big heads and little bodies. And so I kind of worked that into the lore, if that makes sense. So a lot of it really was what I think will be fun to followers now and followers to come, people who are in the community, seeing how so much of the world of Tigons and everything we bring in that world is not only, ideas resurrected from my childhood, but also born out of necessity because of the mechanics of NFTs and the metaverse,
Two things. First of all, John, you need to tell them what you've created and why they have these enlarged heads, because I think that's brilliant. And I also think you probably should tease a couple of the other characters if you feel comfortable doing so, because their names are hilarious and they're pretty genius.
The name? Oh, are you talking about the Skin Tours?
I mean, that's one of them, or Crocovark. So,
Crocovark's just an animal. That's just an animal of many. We have a Crocovark that's a crocodile aardvark. A big part of the Tigons world is these hybrid animals that they are creating constantly. And so it kind of, it's almost like, do you remember the old 80s cartoon called The Wuzzles?
Oh, yeah. There was like a lion bumblebee thing, right?
Yeah. Bumble lion or something.
I had him. I don't remember his name. Yeah.
Yeah. So imagine that, but it's kind of like, that's very much what the Tigons are about. Except it's not the cutesy version. It's much more, but it's the idea that you have all these, whether they're characters, some of them might be characters, some of them might be more just like the animals. A lot of the main characters, at least in our Tigon story, is Tigons themselves. But within that world, anything is possible. There's, and also, the Tigons love to experiment. So there's a lot of experimentation going on without, giving away too many ideas. Well, the idea of the Tigons with the big head, going back to that, was that it's simply an age thing. As the Tigons grow older, their heads swell with wisdom and knowledge, but their brains adapt to that. Their brains are not that big, but they have the biological ability to, as you gain more information and knowledge, your head has to make space for that. So their skulls and their heads can actually enlarge, and their entire cranium and head will grow larger in size, leaving their body the same size. Sometimes even making space, their bodies will shrink a little bit. So if you ever hang out with some Tigons, the big-headed ones are the smarter and the older ones.
Can you give them a little bit about the space yaks?
Yeah, the Space Yaks are going to be there in the Sandbox world that we create, but the Space Yaks is kind of the placeholder name. We're still working on the name for them right now, the technical name for them. But yeah, they are essentially they are the Tigons RVs is the best way to, these floating RVs that they travel through space on top of and within. They are these big cavernous creatures that are hairy on the outside, but on the inside, they actually have multiple empty, like, gosh, I got to come up with words for all these, but they're essentially like a floating apartment building. So it's almost like you take a space cruise, but instead it's inside this living, space yak. And that's the best way we could describe it. They don't quite look like yaks, but they have giant horns and they feed off of like solar radiation, and they are not your normal kind of creatures. But yeah, the Tigons travel within them, and they kind of are there whenever they travel to different planets. They live within those space yaks. It's like giant apartment buildings, because these space yaks are humongous. They can house up to like a couple thousand Tigons at a time.
Wow. I heard some people talking about Yak Piss. What is that? I mean,
well, I don't want to drop all our stuff right now.
Okay, you don't have to. No pressure.
You won't know all the stuff, but Yak Piss is it's a delicacy. It's kind of like, well, I don't know if you call it a delicacy, but it's a go-to. It's a go-to drink that they love, and they hawk it around. It will be for sale. It will give you extra, like, it'll probably, it has a lot of nutrients and stuff like that. I don't know if it actually gets you drunk. I'm not sure if it's that, but there's definitely fermentation going on there, because but they have so much of it because it comes from the yaks. But well, I'm not going to give it all away right now, but you'll find out later. It's not quite exactly what it appears to be. But I think down the road.
There is some natural fermentation that is involved. So, it'll create, some sort of response to it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. There'll be some kind of thing, whether it's getting drunk or if it's some kind of barbiturate or if it's some kind of stimulant, something will have an effect, something that will bring the drinker back multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a Sandbox thing, or is this
well, it's within the lore, and all that stuff will be, within the Sandbox for sure.
I have not seen the latest rendition, and John, maybe you have, but there are rivers of it.
I believe in the Sandbox there will be a river of Yak Piss.
And the reason I know is the big conversation, as I told you, this is very important business that we do here, was what the color of the Yak Piss was going to be. And there was a big debate about what it was. I'm just convinced that it should be glowing in some capacity, or almost like like a hypercolor t-shirt where you breathe into it and it maybe even changes a little bit of color. But
that'd be amazing.
Ultimately,
like a sweater that says this shirt was soaked in Yak Piss, and then as you put your hand on it, and it's like different colors.
I really wanted to get hypercolor t-shirts of like Tigons and Verified Labs for ThetaCon. We just didn't have the time or resources, but maybe next year. Those things are great. But again, all of this stuff, including the Yak Piss River, that's ultimately up to John and Dan to decide what the creative vision is of it, and then the rest of the team to help bring it to life. And I think to a certain extent, what'll be fun when we get to the place is listening to the community, because Yak Piss was created from the community. They just started sending out like gifs and memes of like, 100% Yak Piss, and like the images and everything. So we're like, oh, this is fun. Like, how do we incorporate this? So I think, a lot of it is supporting what they bring to the table too, if it makes sense for the overall vision, which is great.
Yeah.
My suggestion, the thing with Yak Piss is just go with the flow,
I like that. I like that.
Exactly.
John, did you name all of these attributes? I noticed that hero is in like many of the attributes, and it seems to be just a common attribute. And I'm curious how that happened.
We named all the attributes when we were creating them. And yeah, the hero really was the you might have to remind me, because I believe the hero was, there was a base Tigon that I drew. And so I call it the hero Tigon. Because really, I mean, I not fully understanding exactly what I was getting into, like when we were talking about doing a generative drop and not realizing, like, I drew the Tigon, but then realizing, oh, the original hero Tigon, no one's going to get that unless I suppose it could have been possible if it had no traits and no nothing. It was just the hero version of everything. So I think that's what the hero, if it says hero on it, then that would be part of the original, like what that Tigon, I know there's the hero hairdo, the hero eyes, the hero nose. Yeah. If you had only hero stuff, then you would have just the naked original, no attribute, like no
perfect hero
clothing or anything like that. What?
The perfect hero.
Exactly.
The hero too, I'm not sure if you guys know, is a term that's used in filmmaking. Are you aware of that?
Absolutely not.
Really?
So, John, you know this. I mean, obviously there's the hero of the story, but the hero is actually the prop, a specific prop that is used and handled by one of the main actors. It's the hero, meaning it's going to be in the film. So if the hero is something that's like, let's say it's like a statuette that they're going to be holding, they won't use the hero until they're actually doing the shot. They'll give them like a fake thing to hold because they don't want to get dirt or.
You're right. Actually, yeah, what you're describing is exactly what I didn't even think that. I was like, oh yeah, you're right. To me, that hero is indicating it's the original. Not so much that he's a hero, but it's exactly what you're saying. Like, this is the main one that we go back to. Everything else is just an alternate, but our main guy, or the one that, I think that kind of falls in with what you're describing, Justin, right?
Yeah, I think that's why we called it that, because we were like, okay, what is the hero Tigon? What is the one that we're attaching all of these things to?
Yeah.
Because we also were like, there's the hero Tigon, but then there's werewolf, there's robot, there's alien. And so
I would assume that's a term that most people get. Like, when I wrote that, is that the filmmaker in me that's just wrote that and you got it, but everybody else thinks it's like, wait, this is a hero? Like, I was like, oh.
I didn't have any idea.
We're two stupid pineapples.
No, that's stupid.
Well, it's funny. I at the end of each semester when I teach, I take a class photo because, when my students go on to win awards and everything, I'm going to take all the credit. But I always make a joke where I'm like, it's the martini shot. Again, like a film term where it's like the very last shot of the last day is the martini shot, because then you go out and you enjoy some martinis, right? You celebrate the fact that you're done with everything. And it's so funny because, especially in the grad program, they're like, martini shot, what does that even mean? I'm like, you just graduated like 7 years of studying film and you don't know what the martini shot is. So
you need to be on set to know that.
I know you need to be on set, but that's the thing, is I think some of this terminology will probably carry over into this space, and I think the hero is just one of those. In this case. Yeah. So now you know what the hero is, what it means, why there's so many, because there's the hero Tigon that most of these things are being adorned on.
Thank you for that. And the 10s and 10s appreciate that for sure. Yeah. Yeah, no, listen, guys, super appreciative of you guys coming on. This was awesome. Anytime, if you guys got something else coming up and, you want two lowly pineapples to cover it, you guys are welcome anytime.
Yeah, let us know.
Certainly friends of the Pinecast here. And yeah, we're looking forward to some Yak Piss ourselves. Can't wait to maybe take a swim in it.
Well, yeah. I mean, thanks so much for having us. It's great. It was great, meeting you guys. I thought ThedaCon was a success.
Absolutely.
I think you guys are doing great work. Keep calling out Theta when you need to. Let's hold them to a high standard. I think as we hold ourselves to a high standard, that's Pineapple Society and Tigons. I think we're all going to do great stuff. We're it's the beginning of something big. It's going to take some time here. We're at the infancy stages, but being at the forefront of it, I think there's a lot to be excited about. Just continuing to create in a space where people are going to start really consuming content differently. So anytime that we can hang out with you guys and talk about what you're, up to and what we're working on, we'll take advantage of that. So thanks for inviting us. It was fun. And yeah, we'll be back. John, thanks for giving us an hour and a half of your time too. I know it's very valuable, so we appreciate it.
Thank you, John. Thank
No
you,
problem.
Justin. Thank you, Justin,
John,
Trevor Winters.
Last thing I'll say too, not to put you on the spot, let's, since I'm alive and I didn't die, let's connect this week. I want to see if we can still potentially, we're talking about trying to accomplish an anniversary drop on Theta Tigons. So that means the third week in January, where we're going to do something special and do another drop. So we still got to get it confirmed from Theta, but we got to get some creative going on it too. So let's touch base and get some of that going this week if we can.
Sweet.
All right. Cool. Start saving up, everybody.
All right, guys. Thanks.
All right. Take care, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.
You have been listening to the Pops and Mags Pinecast. Music provided by Sushi Cat. Like what you hear? Send that cat a treat at feedthecat.theta. Pops and Mags is a Scumbag Hat production in association with Kyle's Hot Tub.